BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radio pain. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Mixed Doubles Podcast. I'm your host, Maggie Robinson, and today is actually a special solo episode. Josh is away on a trip, so we are doing something a little different. And as some of you guys know, I'm kind of in a transitory period in my life. I am leaving my job at the NFL and going to pursue broadcast journalism at Syracuse for a one-year master's program. So I thought it would be helpful to put something together for those of you who are kind of in a weird in-between period of your life. You're coming up on some big change. So this episode is going to be all the good advice that I've compiled from our great interviews that we've done over the past few months. I really hope it helps you like it helped me. It's always really reassuring to hear from women who have done the thing, who are really accomplished, and who can just kind of offer some perspective on next steps. So we're going to kick it off with some advice from Caroline Chagares, who is a director at the NWSL and formerly at the NFL.
Do you have a piece of advice for any students or student athletes or anybody in general that are trying to break into the sports industry? I know, we're all definitely, as you said, humble and grateful to be in this position to work in this space and get to touch on such cool products. But if there's anything that you have as a lasting parting gift to any of the listeners.
I would say forming relationships is so important. And when I think about forming relationships, another word that people use is networking. I personally don't love that word. The word networking seems very transactional and like kind of icky to me because when you think of networking, at least for myself, I think of going to a happy hour, giving a business card, and it's like, okay, this XYZ, let's do that. I need this, you need this, whatever. Forming relationships is so important because, first of all, I would say when I look back on my career, not that I've been working for that long, but when I look back, forming relationships and like my friendships with my coworkers has been the thing I'll always remember, whether it's me staying late at the office or I don't know if you guys remember this at the NFL. Like I would physically sometimes be running around the office trying to print stuff, which in hindsight was really dramatic, but people still mention that to me when I'm talking to them. Like, oh yeah, Caroline was running around the office. I don't think what I was working on was that important, but I remember those moments. And one of the things that my parents always used to say to me growing up, which I don't think I understood until later in my life, was that luck favors the prepared. And preparation can be preparation for a big game, preparation for a big project, preparation for a presentation. But I think that preparation can just be years and years of learning, asking questions, getting to know people, getting a coffee with someone, reaching out to them on LinkedIn because you think their job is cool. Because I really do think the end goal doesn't have to be getting a job, but at the end of the day, things generally work out. And if you're calling someone who works in sports just to learn about what they do, maybe the next time a role opens up, they're like, oh, I just talked to Caroline and she said she was interested in what I did. So I can maybe put her name in, or I can reach out to see if she is still looking for something. And I think the luck favors the prepared is one that preparation can be years and years and years. And when the right moment comes, you want to be ready for it. And that can just be making friends, talking to your coworkers, learning and being a sponge and absorbing information. I would say that. Be patient. I have to work on that too, but try to be patient. Everything works out.
I love that advice from Caroline, and I've found that networking is super impactful, and just meeting people and making genuine connections has already helped me so much in my career. So I will definitely be taking her advice, and always good to hear that things do generally work out. It's never as deep as you think it is. This next person is Emily Proud. She is a CBS sports reporter who focuses on college football and has also done some sideline work for the NWSL and the WNBA. She offers some really great perspective on how to have a work-life balance in an unconventional career, and I personally will be taking this to heart as sports broadcasting and her career is one that I want to follow. How do you kind of keep routine for a job that's super not routine?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just adjusting your schedule to work, which I know like that sounds counterintuitive. A lot of people are like, no, you need to focus on home life. But if you resist it, if you continually are like no, I need to like just totally focus on this and, work be damned. I can worry about this later. Like, then you're just going to drive yourself absolutely nuts. And so I learned how to kind of fit this square peg into a round hole when I was working in local news because my off days were always Wednesday, Thursday, which meant that I was working weekends, I was working nights. And so anytime that I would just like get upset about the fact that, okay, my husband and I can't go on a date on a Saturday night, this stinks. If I continually got upset about that, then that would not be a fun life to live. Instead, what we did, we learned that, there's a lot of good happy hours during the week. It's a lot easier to get a reservation on a Wednesday or on a Thursday than it is on a Saturday. So, you make it work and you adjust around things. I am very, very type A. I have a very organized and color coded calendar. So a lot of it is staying organized and continually making sure that you're building time for the things that are important and also, the things that you have to do. And so I know it's kind of cheesy to do the color coding, but honestly, like I will like yellow is my favorite color. And that's the color that I've chosen for personal things. And
Love
so if
that.
I look at my week and I'm like, there's no yellow on here, I need to fix that. I need to like schedule time to have dinner with a friend, or I need to, schedule a time to hang out with my husband or stuff like that. And while that sounds like very regimented and hardcore, during football season, it's kind of what you have to do. And as a visual person, if I say blue, because CBS is blue,
Mhm.
that's
Yep,
at
it's the
work.
same
If there's
color code
all
for
blue on
you.
there, then I'm like, all right, I need some balance in my life. So it works for me. So I guess I'll continue to do that. But I don't know if that's good advice or bad advice for people that are trying to schedule their lives like that, but it's something that has really worked for me to be able to visually look at my life as opposed to having to continually take stock and be like, have I seen this friend in a while? No, I haven't. Should I reach? Like that would drive me nuts where I'm just looking at it. I'm like, you know what? I've had a lot of work this week. Let's try to make some time for myself for friendships and that sort of thing. And it just I think it's worked out that way. I did not start that way. I will tell you very much that this was something that is built years over years. So if you're in a place right now where you're like, I have no balance whatsoever, I was there. You just got to continually work on it and figure out what works for you.
This next clip is from Tish Carmona, who was previously at the WNBA and is currently the director of communications for Unrivaled, the 3v3 women's basketball league down in Miami. She had some great perspective on how to break into the industry, what to look for when you're looking for jobs, kind of explain to people that it's not as hard as you think. There's a lot of different jobs in the sports industry. And also to tap into the digital space and really use the platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube that are at your fingertips and leverage those in the job search.
Now, can you just elaborate a little bit more on any advice you would have to aspiring young professionals in sports and college students as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first step is just awareness and making sure you're absorbing as much information as you can. I mean, I think stuff like this is great to be able to tune into and just understand what is even out there. I think so much of the barriers for entry for people who want to work in sports is just not knowing that you can just be in finance in sports or, can be a lawyer for, a sport league. It's just that there are opportunities out there and then figuring out how to get there. So, I mean, obviously the tried and true, like keep networking, keep, going to different events, like that kind of stuff is always going to be kind of the standard. But I think now, especially as there is so much at our disposal and, earlier, like even when I was, trying to apply for different internships and jobs, like TikTok wasn't really a thing. Like people weren't able to utilize that to showcase their either, video editing capabilities or their interviewing capabilities. And just there's so much more of an online portfolio that people can build without it feeling like an online portfolio. Like I remember, during some of the courses that we have to take at Maryland, it's like, hey, put up all your work samples and this and that. And that's how people will get to know you. Whereas now it just like feels so natural and it feels a little bit more authentic to who you are. And so being able to just like tap into your interests and then showcasing how your passions will align with whatever you want your career to be. I think that I always advocate for that for, someone who is interested in getting involved in a certain aspect of the business, whether that's analyzing what partnerships, players have with different brands or whatever it may be, then it's like, okay, report on that. Like the information's out there, like start a podcast about it or start, a TikTok about it. Like just the fact that everything is kind of at our fingertips really allows people to just show what they can do more so than ever before. So just taking advantage of that, especially now, is I think the biggest thing. But again, just always tying back to the relationships that you build with other people and not just, people who are who you aspire to be or the careers that you aspire to have, but the people around you, because, I still to this day, like there's people I met when, whether that was at Maryland or at any previous jobs that I continue to have those relationships with. So your peers are really your greatest network too. So just continuing to build and have positive relationships with those around you is so important.
Next up, we have a clip from Cathy Yancy, who is the current vice president of broadcasting at the NFL, formerly was at ESPN for many years, and started off her career in broadcasting in Arizona. She's had such an incredible career, has had so many experiences, and actually, the idea for this Advice Line podcast came from Cathy herself. So, Cathy, if you're listening, thank you so much. I've definitely done a lot of reflecting, listening back to this, and it's really helpful to hear all this advice. But she offers a lot of perspective on finding your passion and then turning that into a career. And I think that's so important and definitely something I'm trying to tap into.
Sometimes people think they want to work in sports, but maybe they really don't. Or maybe they're the wrong sport, or maybe it's just the wrong area of the business. There's a lot of different area. This kid came to me one time, a parent sent him to me so he could work in ESPN in programming. And the more I started asking him questions, I realized he doesn't want to do this. This is not what he wants to do. And so I asked him, what do you want to do? If you could do anything in the world tomorrow morning when you wake up, what would you do? And he was giving me some pretty lame answers. And I said, like, seriously, you got all the money in the world. You wake up tomorrow, what would you want to do? And he said, oh, I would go skiing for sure. I said, now we're on to something. And I said, do you realize all the careers you could have in skiing? You could go work for a ski travel agency. You could work for USA Skiing. You could work at a ski resort. You could go work at a company that makes skis. Think about all the businesses. And then within those businesses, there's all the different disciplines. So what are you good at? Are you a good cook? You can go be a chef, right? There's so many different things. So think about it that way. Find your passion. Somebody told me this a long time ago, make your avocation your vocation. And so I think that's really super important too, is to find that. I've said that to so many people and tried to help people find what it is they want to do, what area they want to do, what's going to make them happy, but also it's a kind of a math equation here, right? It needs to be, what do you love doing? What are you good at? And what does a company need? Like, how do you find that intersection of those? And that's what I try to do.
I love that advice from Cathy, and it really does feel like a puzzle where you're trying to get all the pieces to click into place of what am I really good at, but what can I also monetize and what will people actually pay for me to do, but that I enjoy doing. We're going to round it out with the Launch Break founders, Teresa Saputo-Corrend and Philippa Portnoy, who came on the podcast recently, and they're both doubles partners from Columbia who played tennis together and now are founders of Launch Break, which is essentially LinkedIn for female athletes. And they just give some good perspective on not trying to look at the numbers of how many women are in C-suite or how few women are doing certain things, but just really keep your head down, stay aligned with the mission, do the work, and good things will happen.
Would love to kind of just hear your advice from the two of you for young athletes that are looking to start their careers out, advance their careers, or pivot industries. Kind of what would you say to them? Honestly, Maggie and I are two good examples if you want to speak to us.
Yeah. I'm what you call like a professional tennis nerd. I watch a lot of it, and I'm one of those people that watches the, on-court interview and then the press conferences. I watch a lot of press conferences. And, the players, a lot of the players say they don't know who they're playing next. And unless a media person tells them, they don't even focus on the head-to-head matchup stats with the person that you're playing next. So my advice, especially for women athletes, is don't focus on the stats. If you focus on the stats, that 94% of women in the C-suite being athletic, that's great for us to focus on. But, there's, I think 3% of the CEOs internationally are women. So that's not a great stat. 3% of female founded companies, 2% of the investment money is going to female founded companies. So if you focus on those stats, it's going to be tough to get up every day. So I would just say, keep your head down and get to work, and you will be a change maker. All research points to the fact that women athletes have the edge to get there.
And I would just echo what Teresa says. And I also think it's important to focus on developing the skills and not worrying about what job you're in. Like, you may not get the ideal job the first get-go, but if you have a job where you get the skills, then you can kind of transfer to your ideal job. So just, as Teresa said, work hard, get the skills, and, do your best.
Fantastic advice. Truly. That wraps it up for this Advice Line episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. To be candid with you guys, I just listened to a panel for my grad school and I got so intimidated and scared about the future. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing leaving my job? I'm taking this big, scary step. There is so much change coming my way, and it was freaking me out. And listening to these quotes was really reassuring of, you know what? One, I don't have to have my whole life together. I am 24. Two, I've done the work to get this far. I can definitely do the work to continue moving up. And three, just rely on the relationships and the people around you, and really don't forget that that's truly what matters at the end of the day. So thank you to all the women who we had on the podcast and we clipped for this interview. And if you like what you're listening, please throw us a 5 stars. Follow us on Instagram at Mixed Doubles Pod. That is 1D, the Mix and the Double. Share it. Share us with your friends. Send it around. I know it's college graduation time. Send it to some people you think could listen. So thanks for listening, and I will see you next week.